Hello, everyone. When memes started, somebody sent me something similar to this. I couldn't find the original one that I had, but I have a few other pictures that show different things, especially and even a suggestion of um, how dangerous it used to be, but now it's okay. There's 6 points here. I just wanted to share that picture as well. It says you got, oops. You got thrown off the wheel of death. You got an uppercut from a 2x4. You plinked through this thing. Um, you got tried by a slide at, fried by a slide at high noon. You ran behind Hannah's eye swing, and you could not skip these bars. So playing in the yard is definitely much better than playing on a PlayStation, not only for educational purposes, but also especially talking about Shabbat, where we're not allowed to use electricity. Um, when TVs started and there was still stuff that kids could watch with their parents, a lot of times the parents would say, until you finish your homework or whatever chore it is, we're not watching TV, and so that was a motivation. I personally, if I had that thing when we were raising our children, we did not have a TV, so uh, but I think that I wouldn't have even done that because it basically says that TV watching is a prize. Uh, I don't know. Anyway, um, so playing in the yard on Shabbat is the main topic here, but let's talk about other things before that. So one may compress a spring on a toy car so that the car will move forward as long as the car does not make noise and no lights light up. One may not play with any battery operated toy. One may not blow up a balloon because a knot is usually tied at the end. However, if the balloon is sealed with a valve instead of a knot, and it has previously been inflated, it may be inflated on Shabbat. So even like a vest for swimming, um, well, I guess that's not such a good idea, but if you have a pool and it's indoors and the kids are wanting to go swim and you have something inflated, then that would be also the same thing. But you're not allowed to tie a knot because that knot is permanent, even though we know that the balloon will deflate eventually, but it's never going to be untied. So just going back to the laws of kosher. Children may not play with toy musical instruments such as trumpets, pianos, guitars, bells, and noisemakers on Shabbat. If you remember, we talked about the bell on a front door or a knocker that is not electric. We said that there are some opinions that say you're allowed to and some that don't. But of course, if you went to a house and you didn't know that that's the only way to knock on the door, and they won't hear you if you knock on the door itself, then it is allowed. Such toys are muktzah. However, one may give a baby a toy that makes noise when it is shaken or a button is pushed. However, the adult himself may not cause the toy to make noise, and so it helps soothe the baby. And so we're not going to forbid it, especially since, again, it's usually shvut. If it's batteries, I guess it's more chamor than shvut, but for a baby, it's allowed. Sand is muktzah unless it was set aside before Shabbat for children to play with, so a sandbox. In that case, they may play with the sand as long as it is fine and dry enough that it cannot be used to fashion shapes. However, if the sand is wet enough that can scoop up out holes or fill them up, one may not play with it on account of the melacha of boneh. One may not make sand wet because of the melacha of lash, which is like kneading dough. One may not play with marbles on the ground because one may level the ground to make sure that the marbles roll smoothly and also the actual hole where the marbles are supposed to go into. Similarly, one may not play any game on the ground that requires that the ground be flat because one may end up leveling it. Even if the ground is paved, one may not play there, and there is a concern that might then end up playing on unpaved ground. However, one may play on the floor inside, since all homes today have flooring, we are not worried that playing there will lead anyone to play outside on unpaved ground. So if there's like a basketball court and the kids are less than bar mitzvah, or if it's even a soccer field where it's not a field, it's actually just paved um, um, like a sidewalk, then again, that would be allowed for kids who are not bar mitzvah. It is permissible to play with apricot pits, which we talked about when we talked about garbage that's left on the table. And so in Israel, they call them gogoim, which is it's a game that is very similar to marbles, but there's even more opportunities. Throwing them into a box and winning as many as the person set that hole. The tinier the smaller the hole, the bigger the prize, which children commonly play with in Israel. Since they are set aside for this purpose by the children, they are not muktzeh like other pits. Even pits removed from apricots on Shabbat are not muktzeh, since many children play with them. And you won't believe how many fights there are in different simchas, or even a kiddush, when apricots are served, and each one of the kids wants as many as they can, and it gets messy. And so one may swing on a swing, but if it hangs from a tree, even if only on one side, it is prohibited. If the swing hangs from a peg that was driven into the tree, it is permitted. So um, that's in terms of playing in the yard. Back to the idea of the PlayStation. And let's continue with one more halacha of ball games and running, because we just mentioned basketball and stuff like that. So children may not play soccer, football, baseball, or basketball on Shabbat, since adults make a big deal out of these games and they have intricate rules and procedures. They are prohibited as they are considered a prohibited weekday activity. Besides, sometimes these games involve additional prohibited activities such as preparing the field for a game, driving to the field, registering for the game, and buying and selling tickets or team merchandise. It is also prohibited to watch a soccer or basketball game on Shabbat because this is a weekday activity. It is even prohibited to play with the balls associated with these sports at home or in a yard because they are muktzah and because it is a weekday activity. For the same reasons, all of the above applies to tennis as well. Again, I think that a lot of rabbis do allow, if it's specifically a basketball court that is all paved and or small, a small game of soccer where it's not according to all the rules, but just kids having fun and running around. Um, what my stepson many years ago would kick the soccer ball in the house, which of course could break all kinds of things, and so we just went downstairs to where like the small in like enclosed area that it won't get lost. But again, you have to ask your rabbi. Um, and so maybe just one silly thing, when Rabbi Muhammad talks about not watching these games on Shabbat, he's not talking about TV. He's talking about, if you live close enough to the stadium, or if there's a game that is like in an open field and you just pass by. That's, I think, what he's talking about, because TV is definitely not a proper Shabbat activity. And when I was in Toronto one year for Yantiv, there were people on their way back from shul, um, seeing, stopping at the stores that sold TVs in order to see what the score was. So that, of course, is not a proper way of spending Shabbat. Children may play and run around for their enjoyment, but may not participate in exercise classes like we talked about. Children may play with balls designed for young children on condition that they play indoors or in a paved yard. So that's what I was saying, that if it's in a paved yard, and even in the youth movements in Israel, a lot of kids play a game called Chayesar, which is sort of tag, but with a ball, not a volleyball, but some kind of soft ball like that when you hit somebody before it hits the ground, and then they are out, and then they can be saved, etc. So again, that's if it was forbidden, religious youth movements would not be doing that. However, they may not play on grass or on a dirt yard out of concern that they will level the ground and tear the grass. Like we said, they may play table tennis for fun, since that is generally played indoors. There is no need to worry that by allowing children to play with balls at a young age, they will get used to it and will continue doing so as adults, since the permission is limited to balls designed for children, which in any case adults do not play with. And last, one may not recover a ball from a tree using one's hand or a stick, as might lead to breaking a branch. If the ball falls out on its own, one may play with it afterwards and just maybe be careful not to do it again. So we'll stop here and we'll open up for questions.